What's up guys, my name's Brandon, and today Apple released iOS 13.6.1 about a month after the release of iOS 13.6. And if you guys are following me over on Twitter, you would have been anticipating this release today. But anyways, in this video, we're of course going to be talking about what's new in this software update, including the bugs, bug fixes, performance, battery life, and more. And if you're on the iOS 14 beta and you're watching this video, I will talk about the next iOS 14 beta at the end of this video. But anyways, taking a look at the size of this update, you can see it's very small. Of course, it is a point update, 0.6.1. So you can see there the size on my iPhone XS Max is 109.5 megabytes, of course, coming from 13.6. That size will vary depending on your version and your device. And as you can see, Apple just says iOS 13.6.1 includes bug fixes for your iPhone. And we'll talk about those here in a moment. But let's go ahead and check out the build number for this latest update. Settings, general, about. You can see 13.6.1. The build there is 17G80. And if we scroll down a little bit, you can see that the modem firmware is unchanged. So if you had any type of cell connectivity issues, those are not likely to be resolved in this update. All right, so now what's new in iOS 13.6.1? And as you guys know, if you watched my last video, iOS 13.6 was a pretty big update. It brought quite a few new features and changes, and it also fixed a lot of issues that were remaining on 13.5.1. And now in this update, 13.6.1, this is mainly just an incremental update to fix some of the bugs that were not fixed in 13.6.1, hence the 100 megabyte size. There's not a ton of changes. However, there are some important ones in this update. And you can see here, Apple actually bullet pointed these in the release notes to tell us the three main things that have been fixed here in this update. And the first one I want to talk about is the green tint bug. So this was a massive bug after the 13.5 and 13.5.1 updates were released. A lot of users were reporting a green tint to their device's display. And this got a lot of press. It was all over the press. I got a lot of comments here on YouTube about it. And a lot of people thought at first that it was just for the iPhone 11 Pro. So basically, if you guys don't know the bug I'm talking about, it never affected me, but I read about it. Basically, if you turn your brightness down low, like some users reported that when their brightness was really low on their iPhone, and then they locked their device and then unlocked it, it would have like this green tint to it, like this kind of dark green tint to it. And some people also reported that it happened after they unplugged their phone from charging and they had, low brightness on their phone. It would have like this green tint to it. Now, I never had this. I tried to reproduce it on every single one of my devices and I could not, but it was widespread enough that it made press and I got a lot of comments here on YouTube about it. So it was definitely a real thing. And now Apple is saying that they fixed it. You can see there, it is the second bullet point. It says fixes a thermal management issue that caused some displays to exhibit a green tint. So that gives us a little bit more insight as to what was causing this green tint issue in the first place. It seemed to be an issue with thermal management. So it had something to do with maybe the heat, and it kind of is weird because it had to do with having low brightness. So a lot of people reported that it only happened when their brightness was low. So it seems kind of strange that that would have something to do with the thermal and the heat coming from the device, unless the display just went low because it was getting hot on the inside. But regardless, the green tint bug is finally fixed here in iOS 13.6.1. We also got a fix for a storage bug here in 13.6.1. Up top here, you can see it says, addresses an issue where unneeded system data files might not be automatically deleted when available storage is low. So I didn't see anybody mentioning that specifically, but a lot of people did mention that their other storage took up a lot of space in 13.6. And I could tell you that in 13.6.1, my other did go down a little bit. So if you were having this storage bug, Apple didn't say that this specific one has been fixed, but I did notice that my other did go down by like 2 gigabytes. So if you are having that issue on 13.6, it may be worth updating just to get rid of that. However, if you were having this issue where files were not automatically deleted when your available storage is low, you definitely need to go ahead and update to 13.6.1, especially if you're on something like, an iPhone 6S or, a device with low storage. Maybe you only have 32 gigabytes of storage and you really need your system to take care of those files so you can have more storage space on your device. So that's a major bug that's been fixed here in 13.6.1. And then we also have a fix for exposure notification. So it would be disabled for some users, even if you were in a country or a state where you had an application and you should be able to enable this, it was still disabled for some users. And if you guys don't know where the exposure notifications are in iOS 13, this was just recently introduced to iOS as well. If you go to your settings, go to privacy, then to health, you'll see COVID-19 exposure logging right here. And you definitely want to go ahead and enable that if you do have an application available in your country or your state. And so you can be, tracking and logging everything to do with COVID to keep yourself and others safe and just aware if they've come in contact with somebody that was tested positive for COVID. Now, I also wanted to mention that I used the new feature in Settings General Software Update, Customize Automatic Updates. I used this today when I installed iOS 13.6.1, or I should say when I downloaded 13.6.1, because with this new feature, which was introduced in 13.6, I was able to just download the update and not install it. Even though I was plugged in and had enough battery and everything, you now get the option to download and not install, or of course to download and install. So I used that today, and I just wanted to say that it worked perfectly on my iPhone XS Max here. Now, I also want to talk about the VPN bug because I get asked this in every single update if it's been fixed yet. And I don't think it's been fixed in 13.6.1 because Proton VPN, the ones who originally found this vulnerability / bug, whatever you want to call it, they confirmed that it was still not fixed in iOS 13.6. And this bug was first introduced back in iOS 13.4. So it's been going on for months, and Apple has still not patched this major vulnerability with the VPNs in iOS, which is kind of alarming, and it definitely seems like something that can be easily fixed, but they have still not fixed it. And if you're still unaware as to what this bug is, I will leave a link down in the description below to a blog post from Proton VPN where they outline what this bug is. Essentially, it's a vulnerability where not all of your traffic gets passed through the VPN tunnel, and some of it can basically leak out and not use the VPN, which could be kind of dangerous if you're dealing with really important or really sensitive data. So definitely something to keep in mind. And it's probably not fixed here in 13.6.1 since it was not fixed in 13.6 and Apple did not mention it at all. But of course, if it has been fixed, if Proton VPN posts that it's been fixed, I will let you guys know in my follow-up video, which I always release after about a week of using the software. So that'll probably come either this weekend or early next week. So now let's talk about the performance in iOS 13.6.1. Now, I never made a follow-up video to iOS 13.6 only because iOS 14 came out around the time I was going to do that. And after that, I just pretty much covered all iOS 14 on this channel. So I didn't really get around to making a follow-up video for iOS 13.6. But I will say that the performance on that after a week of using it and now, after a month of using it has been excellent. Of course, I have not been using it as much as iOS 14 because that's my main focus now on the channel. However, I will say that it was very solid on my iPhone XS Max. I was also using it on my iPhone 7 Plus and a couple of other devices at the time, and things were great. And I would expect the same here in 13.6.1. And taking a look at the Geekbench scores here, you can see I have iOS 13.6 on the second row, 13.6.1 above it. So we got an 1117 here up top compared to 1116 on 13.6. And then the multi-core is actually higher in 13.6.1. So we got a 2855 versus 2745 in 13.6. So Geekbench tells us that 13.6.1 is a little bit better in terms of performance as well compared to 13.6. So now let's talk about the battery life in 13.6.1 and also 13.6, because a lot of people in 13.6 had issues with battery drain, mainly those on the iPhone 7, iPhone 7 Plus, and the iPhone 8 Plus. So it didn't seem like a lot of people with newer devices had issues with battery, but some of those with older devices had really bad issues with the battery life. So iOS 13.6.1 might fix that for you. I don't know if it had something to do with the storage or the display tint. I don't know what could have caused the battery drain in the first place, but 13.6.1 could fix that. Apple did not mention it. They never really mentioned anything about battery life unless it's like a major thing that got a lot of press. So I wouldn't expect Apple to, come out and say that it fixes battery life, but you might see an improvement in battery life here in 13.6.1. I will let you guys know my experience in my follow-up video to 13.6.1, so definitely stay tuned. Make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss that video. But like I said, I would expect better battery life, if not better than just the same as 13.6, which could be, a negative for some people since they're having issues with battery on 13.6. But like I said, it is too early to tell right now, but if you guys would just leave me a comment after a couple of days of using this on this video, I would appreciate it so I know, how battery life is going for you, and I will report on that in my follow-up video. So now, should you update to iOS 13.6.1? And I say yes, especially if you have any bugs or issues on iOS 13.6. But even if iOS 13.6 was fine for you, this update is not likely to break anything, and you also get the added stability and added security improvements. Apple always adds security improvements, even if they don't mention them. There are added security benefits to updating as well. So you always keep your device updated and more secure than it was in the previous version. So that's always a reason to upgrade as well. So yeah, iOS 13.6.1. This is going to be, of course, one of the last iOS 13 releases. Of course, we will have more leading up into, iOS 14 and even after iOS 14 has been released, but I wouldn't expect too many of them. So I would expect probably like every month we get an iOS 13 update, kind of like we have been recently. So we might get a 13.6.2, maybe even a 13.6.3. I doubt we'll get all the way to 13.7, but of course you never know with Apple. So if we were to get another update, maybe 13.6.2, it could be the second week of September. So maybe September 9th, September 16th, somewhere around there, maybe one of those 2 weeks if I had to guess. But of course, these are just raw predictions and we really never know what Apple's gonna do. But I would expect a 0.6.2 instead of a 0.7 since Apple has never had a 0.7 update before. But of course, you never know. Apple always switches things up and throws curveballs our way. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, follow me over on Twitter. I will report everything there first, as well as talk about iOS 14 beta updates as well, which speaking of iOS 14 betas, we can expect a new iOS 14 beta, iOS 14 beta 5 next week on the week of the 17th. Of course, I did already tell you guys this yesterday to expect the iOS 14 beta next week instead of this week. So the week of the 17th, we could see that any day, maybe the 17th, 18th, or 19th. I would expect it on Monday through Wednesday. We'll have to wait and see. I will keep you guys posted over on Twitter. Make sure you follow me over there. Also, make sure you guys are a part of the Discord server. That link is down in the description below as well. We always talk about the upcoming iOS updates and release cycles and schedules and all that stuff there in the Discord server. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That is iOS 13.6.1, a very small update, but a very necessary one for those having issues with the tint, with storage, and maybe even those with issues with battery life. Let me know if you guys updated and what you think about the update, or if you're on iOS 14 and you're anticipating the next iOS 14 beta. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Of course, if you guys enjoyed the video, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up, and make sure you guys do subscribe so you see my follow-up video coming within the next week, and also my iOS 14 coverage will continue next week as well. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.